Hello everyone, I'm Trambitas, Head of Product at Johnson Labs. Today I will show you how we are solving one of the biggest data problems in healthcare, automatic cancer registry abstraction. Our solution is accurate, auditable, and works in real clinical environments. Before we start, I want to mention that this work received the FUSE 2026 Real World Evidence Catalyst Challenge Award. This award and the paper it received focus on the accuracy and the scalability of the solution. But today's talk is focused on a higher level picture. I plan to show the problems we are solving, the automated process, and how humans stay in control throughout the abstraction process. Let's begin. First, let's make sure we all have the same understanding of what a cancer registry is. So a cancer registry is a large and organized collection of data about cancer patients. It includes patient demographics, diagnosis details, tumor type and behavior, cancer stage, treatment histology, and long-term outcomes. Think of it as the most complete scientific record we have on how cancer affects populations over time. Now let's see why registries matter. Well, they matter because they support public health policy, clinical research, survival trend monitoring, quality of care measurement, and international studies. When a government allocates funding for a cancer screening program, or when researchers define a clinical trial population, or when a hospital measures its care quality, they all rely on registry data. In other words, registries are a critical infrastructure. They are not there just for the reporting sake or as a side task, but are the basis for very important decision-making and high-reach strategies that concern entire populations. And that matters a lot when we think about what happens when the data is wrong or when it arrives too late. Registries are very good at answering population-level questions, like which cancers are most common or how is incidence changing? Are there regional patterns? What are the survival rates for certain pathologies, for instance? Are some groups receiving worse care than others? Those are important questions, and registries answer them well, but there is a serious structural problem. The typical delay from a patient's diagnosis to the moment when it arrives in the National Registry is 12 to 24 months. The average is 23 months. Almost 2 years between the moment a clinical event occurs and the moment that data is available for analysis. What does this mean in practice? Well, it means that registries today cannot support active patient care. They cannot help with clinical decisions. They cannot match patients to clinical trials. They cannot support care coordination or precision medicine, early intervention, or real-time monitoring. Those are important clinical use cases, but are all blocked because the data arrives too late. Patient Journey Intelligence solves this problem, and it does that by delivering near real-time registry data. And that makes all of those mentioned use cases possible today. So why does this delay exist? Let's look at the reality of manual abstraction. Now, each cancer case takes about 2 hours to process manually. A trained specialist, called an Oncology data specialist, or ODS, can complete 6 to 8 cases per day and around 15,000 cases per year. Each ODS earns between $60,000 and $90,000 per year. This is a highly trained and specialized and understaffed workforce, and because of that, only 14% of registries meet timelines targets. The structural pressure makes this worse. When one experienced ODS retires, you need resources equivalent to hiring 3 new people to replace the lost knowledge. Furthermore, those experts need to keep up with the regular standard changes. For instance, a single guideline update in 2018 doubled the time needed per case overnight. Add to this the complexity of the guidelines themselves. Over 2,500 pages of rules from AJCC, SEER, and NACER. Over 700 data fields to understand and abstract. And between 200 and 250 required fields per adult case. The problem is not that the results are wrong. The problem is that the process is manual, slow, and does not have enough resources. Hiring more people is not a sustainable answer. The only real solution is intelligent automation built specifically for this problem. Before I show you our solution, I want to explain an approach that sounds simple but does not work because we see teams try it regularly and it always fails. The idea is to take all patient documents, put them into a large language model, and ask it to fill in the registry fields. This is simple in theory, but it breaks almost immediately. A 1 million token context window fits about 1,000 pages of text. One cancer patient's complete clinical record is often more than 2,500 pages. The guidelines alone already exceed that limit, and this calculation does not include images and flowcharts or tables included in those guidelines. There is also a well-known problem called context rot. As the amount of text in the model context grows, the quality of its reasoning drops significantly. The performance with 1,000 tokens and performance with 100,000 tokens are very different. But the deeper problems are more serious. First of all, the model must consistently apply over 2,500 pages of regulatory rules, something that general-purpose models cannot do reliably. Second, it must connect information across pathology reports, radiology findings, and lab tables, something single-modality models miss. Third, the output must be identical every time you run them. But language models are probabilistic, meaning they can produce different results each time. And finally, every extracted value must link back to a specific piece of source text, because registries reject black box outputs. These are not problems you can fix with a better prompt. They require a completely different architecture. There is one more important misconception to address. A patient is not a folder of documents. If you treat them that way and combine extracted fields from multiple documents without any logic, you get unreliable results. Three specific problems appear when you apply document-level extraction to patient-level data. The first is temporal conflict. A staging estimate made before surgery may be replaced by the pathology stage found after surgery. Without time ordering, both values look equally valid, but they are not, and the extracted field will be wrong. The second is assertion revision. A mass which is seen on imaging can be found benign after biopsy. Or diagnosis change, they get confirmed or get corrected over time. The system must track these changes, not just read the first document it finds. The third is duplication. Multiple documents from the same clinical visit will describe the same event. Combining them without the duplication creates false evidence and inflates confidence in wrong values. Patient-level reasoning solves all three problems by grouping encounters chronologically in order, tracking how diagnosis changes, and resolving conflicts. So how does the solution look like? Our approach is built on three pillars: multimodal AI, agentic workflows, and human oversight. The first step is data curation and extraction. We bring in clinical data from many sources like pathology reports, radiology findings, genomic tests, physician notes, and so on, and convert it into structured, standardized formats. We use NLP and LLM models that are trained specifically for medical data, not general-purpose models applied to healthcare. Deterministic rules ensure consistency and accuracy across every case. The second pillar is patient-level reasoning. Agentic workflows automatically reconcile incomplete or conflicting records in real time following standardized rules. This changes the ODS job. Instead of spending most of their time consolidating data, they now focus only on the cases that genuinely need their expert judgment. The third step is oncology-specific agents. These agents apply the right guideline logic for each cancer site, histology, and diagnosis date. They translate SEER and AJCC decision flowcharts into executable logic covering staging, histology, biomarkers, treatment, and so on. Everything outputs in JSON or standard formats like NACER. The fourth step, equally important, is the validation interface. This is a UI that registrars, auditors, and clinical coders can actually use every day. It includes complete audit trails, supporting and contradictory evidence display, team collaboration tools, and learning loop that improve model performance over time. Let's see how the platform is structured at a high level. At the bottom, we have the data sources, and the platform accepts data in many formats: TXT, JSON, PDF, CSV, DCOM, FHIR, and so on. It works with data as it already exists. You do not need to restructure your system before you can start. In the middle layer, the data integration pipeline transforms raw clinical data into a standardized foundation. This pipeline handles extraction from unstructured content, the identification, terminology mapping, the duplication, and conflict resolution. All data is normalized to OMOP, and this creates a consistent foundation for everything above it. At the top level, we have the agentic applications like patient journey, clinical measures, cohort creation, patient registry, and custom agent endpoints for teams who want to build their own workflows. These are the tools that different clinical and operational users interact with directly. Let's see the processing pipeline in more details, because this is where our approach is different. The pipeline has 5 stages. ingest, filter, reason, audit, and output. At ingest, we bring the structured data from EHR, from SQL or FHIR, as well as the unstructured data such as pathology and radiology reports or lab results in PDF, TXT, or DCOM format. At filter, locally deployed medical small language models analyze each input document and remove approximately 96% of irrelevant content before it reaches the reasoning layer. This keeps the system fast, accurate, and cost-efficient. At reason, oncology-specific agents apply extraction logic for TNM classification, primary site, histology, diagnosis, and so on. The audit layer records full versioning, evidence links, and complete audit trail. Governance is built into the pipeline, not added at the end. Outputs are as registry-ready XML or JSON files with full traceable provenance included. 3 principles guide the entire architecture. First, data security. With the local deployment means patient data never leaves the secure environment. And then second, no API egress. So we do not send data to external LLM APIs, which eliminates privacy risk and unpredictable costs. Finally, we have governance by design, when every extracted value is linked to its source from the moment it is created. Now, let me show you the platform in action. We start with case finding. Case finding is not a small task. It takes between 15 and 25% of the registrar's working time, just to identify which patients belong into a registry project and which are not reportable cases. This happens across thousands of records, often with incomplete or inconsistent coding. The first step to do when creating a registry is to define the cohort. In other words, users define the target population, and you can do this using different methods, using filters or a conversational AI assistant, or using existing templates, and no coding is required. This will define the set of patients that will be considered for abstraction, and it can be the entire set of patients from a hospital, or patients who visited a hospital in the last year, or specific population for custom registries, for instance. Next, for creating a cancer registry, from the main patient registry dashboard, select New Registry, type in a name and a description for your registry, as well as the type of registry. In this case, NACER, the reporting state or the jurisdiction, some of the states have specific requirements for cancer abstraction. Next, you select the cohort of patients defined in step 1. Then you define your team of registrars and their roles so they get access to the project and to the validation flows. After confirming all your selections, you save the registry and the case finding starts. The system starts processing both structured OMOP data and unstructured clinical notes to identify reportable cancer cases. Using a targeted analysis, irrelevant documents and cases are filtered out automatically, so the system only processes what is actually relevant. This saves time and reduces costs. On top of this, the case finding process identifies the cancer site, histology, and diagnosis date, so the automatic abstraction will be able to correctly pick the abstraction rules that apply for each case individually. Once the reportable cases are identified, the platform automates the full abstraction process according to the 3 data points detected in case finding. On the abstraction page, the registrars can claim a case, view all documents available for that patient, and see the relevance the system assigns to each one of those documents. On the left side, you can see the reportable fields for this case and start checking the automatically abstracted values. When clicking on a field, you notice the supporting and contradictory evidence and the text chunks associated with each one of them. The evidence can be removed or edited as needed. In this case, for instance, the date of diagnosis is not precise, and the registrar can select a section of the document and ask the system to run the corresponding rule again, fix the mistake with the new value, then apply the new value or save the new value to the field. We support different roles for the registry: manager, abstractor, and reviewer with different access levels. When working in teams, it is essential to keep track of changes made by different users. Patient registries keep track of all abstraction versions and allows users to switch between those versions with convenience, as well as compare versions to see the difference between abstraction decisions taken by different actors. This is very useful for quality assurance and interreliability as well. A complete audit trail can be accessed at any time by the reviewer and managers. Results can be exported in JSON or XML format for transmission to state registries. Beyond standard NACER cancer registries, the platform also supports fully customizable configuration or custom registries. For this, users must first define their custom ontologies with prompt-based field definition and expected result examples. No engineering is needed again. You describe what you want to extract and the system does the work. Once the ontology is defined, you need to create a curation job. For this, you pick the custom ontology defined in the previous tab, you pick the target set of patients or the cohort, and you specify a name for the registry and just start the abstraction. At this point, the patient files are analyzed and the data is extracted. You can check the progress of your automation, see statistics for the entire cohort and for each patient individually, and see also intermediary and consolidated results. When the analysis is completed, the results can be exported for analysis or reporting or integration with other systems. Custom registries carry the same provenance and governance guarantees as the standard ones. Support for human-in-the-loop validation for custom registries is also in the work and will soon be available in a similar format as for the cancer registries. The governance interface is one of the most important features in the platform. It is often not fully appreciated until a team goes through an audit or prepares a regulatory submission, and then it becomes essential. For every abstracted field, the platform shows both the supporting evidence and the contradictory evidence from the source record. This makes the AI's reasoning visible and understandable to human reviewers and to external auditors. Every fact is linked back to the extracted text it came from, with the reasoning explained in plain language. A reviewer looking at a histological type value can see which sentence generated that value, what alternatives were considered, and how the system made its decision. Every pipeline run is stored with full versioning metadata, which LLM model, LLM configuration, terminology mapping, guideline versions were used. This makes results scientifically reproducible, not just technically consistent. The patient registry feature is part of the broader patient journey intelligence platform, which was built to solve three fundamental gaps that prevent clinical data from being used reliably for secondary purpose. The first is the data accuracy gap. Up to 40% of clinical diagnoses exist only in unstructured clinical notes and are never entered into structured EHR fields. Traditional analytics cannot access this data. Our medical language models extract the hidden clinical information, so registry abstraction and research initiatives work from complete patient records. The second is the data engineering gap. Organizations spend over 10 full-time engineering years every year rebuilding similar data pipelines for each new registry or cohort or AI model. Our build once, use everywhere pipeline eliminates this by standardizing all data to a mob, one shared foundation for all downstream applications. The third is the AI readiness gap. FDA guidance on real-world evidence requires every clinical AI decision to be traceable to its source document. ICD codes and claims data alone are not sufficient. Patient journey intelligence preserves full provenance for every extracted fact, source document, extraction timeline, machine learning confidence score, and transformation lineage. So you meet FDA requirements from day one. Our mission at Johnson Labs is to reach expert-level accuracy at scale, to build registries that update daily, reflect every patient's reality, and do so with less manual effort and fewer errors. Everything I show you today is in production, with real registry teams working on it, real patient data, real regulatory standards. If you are working on cancer surveillance or real-world evidence, clinical registry infrastructure, I would love to continue this conversation, so please reach out via email or via LinkedIn. Platform documentation is also available on johnsonlabs.com/bji. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the summit.